Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to today's Kyle Seraphin Show. It is Friday. It is a friendly Friday, and it is the last federal Friday of Dan Bongino, the Deputy Director Man's time at the FBI. So happy last Friday, Dan Bongino. Those of you on the 7th floor of the FBI Hoover building that are listening to us, I know it's soon to be not the Hoover building because you're going to be turning it into a deep state museum. And congratulations on all your great successes in 2025. We're going to go through all of them. We've got plenty of time, it turns out, on this podcast. If you guys are new to the program, make sure you guys are hitting the like button at some point when we say something that makes you laugh or we say something that makes you think. And I am going to be bringing Steve Friend on. He is going to be re-released into the wild here on this program, and it's going to be the new launch of the 2026 American Radicals podcast. We've done a little bit of work on the background, and Steve's done some work on his background, and I think you guys are going to really like it. And by the way, if you want to hear people who owe nobody anything when it comes down to what we can and what we can't say and who we can and who we can't say it about, you're listening to one of them. Steve is the other one. In fact, if anything, the American federal government owes Steve Friend a 6-figure settlement, and I think we can talk about that as well. We're going to go over some things that were filed in the pipe bomber case because I think that's relevant. We're going to talk about statutes of limitations regarding January 6th. We're going to talk about running the playbook in 2025, which is to say that the FBI is still setting up their own little bowling pins and knocking them down. They are absolutely crushing them. Congratulations to the FBI for doing what the FBI always does. Look after the FBI. We have this thing here that we talk about. You can't tell me that you've had reform and change with the same people if you don't actually reform and change those things. So that's where we're going to go with today's program. Got a bunch of video clips that I think illustrate the people are fed up. And last but not least, you have absolutely no idea. You are going to be mind blown by the amount of nothing that's going to be released. I'll give you some evidence of why I think that's the case. You guys know that I'm kind of a black pill guy here. I would like to say that I'm pragmatic, I am realistic, and I am a pessimist, and therefore I am rarely disappointed because usually the bad news I think is coming. It's expected, so it doesn't really hurt my feelings. Let's start off with something else. Let's start off with a sponsor read here. This is Patriot Protect. The folks can be found at patriot-protect.com/Kyle, patriot-protect.com/KYLE. Folks, you know the problem. Somebody stole your identity. Someone got access to your credit cards. They've compromised maybe some of your accounts. Maybe you were involved in a data breach or a hack. We've all heard about victims of violent crime and break-ins. What you don't hear about is people that just have all their stuff taken quietly. They wake up one day and find out that their bank account is emptied or that their mortgage is under somebody else's name or that somebody has access to their title. Maybe there's just people nonstop scamming one of your family members. If you want to pull your personal information off and make yourself a harder target, including things like your name, your address, your phone number, your family members, your age, the online behavior that you have, all these things can be published. They can be on Google. They can be other places, data broker websites. If you don't want to be a victim, the best thing to do is to make sure that you're not in the pile of potential victims. Whenever there's a data breach or some sort of access is given, don't be in that group of people that's been sold out and sold down the river. We just had my buddy George Hill tell me that after multiple compromises of his online accounts and listening to this podcast for quite a while, he also just signed up for Patriot Protect. So it's patriot-protect.com/KYLE. Looks like I'm going to guess that this is the end of the week that they run the 50% per life or for life promo by using my name. KYLE saves you 50%, locks it in for life. That is not nothing. You're grandfathered in for a lower bill. Even as things get more and more expensive in this country, your fixed rate will not. So check them out. Link in the show description. Thanks so much for sponsoring us, guys, Skip and the others. And let's do today's program starting right now. And as we get into today's program, it would be wrong if I did not bring on my buddy and my friend and this other guy that we know. It's Steve Friend. Do you always find yourself kind of nodding along with this one?
It's a great walk-up sound, man.
It is.
I'm ready to like lace one into the gap, pick up 2 bags, and set myself up in a runner and scoring position scenario. Way too many sports balls references for you, I know.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Was that a baseball reference?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. I made an accidental football reference the other day, and I was sort of proud of myself for dropping that in. And I can't remember what it was, but I felt like it was like maybe my most. Oh, I know what it was. It was like a walk off if you're at the top, up by 20 points, and you kick the last extra point, and you act like you were the winner, and then you save the day. I feel like a lot of times that's what our government ends up doing. This is when they start taking credit for sentencing of prosecutions that took place under other administrations. That was my best.
Stand in front of the parade that's been going for several miles and act like they've been leading it the whole time.
Yeah, just jump out in front, start doing the thing with the baton. Da, 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 da. All right, Steve, let's just show off what you've been working on in the background there. Look at this. Steve Friend has done some upgrades. What is the inspiration for this visual that people are missing if they're just listening?
Well, I mean, I wanted to go with something that was a little bit more homey, more roomy, and also I had to bring in my frozen iguana nationalism, so we're going to feel the fern behind me. And I also was able to, like a starfish, grow some appendages. So now there will be more hand interaction.
People, if you're new to our program, Steve is a former FBI agent. He's a former police officer. He's a Notre Dame graduate, but we don't know what we think about that because he's not a Catholic. So that's kind of an interesting choice. He chose to go live in one of the coldest places that you could be to go to college, as far as I understand it. And he also is rumored not to have any hands. This is a weird thing that our old presentation where he would sit on a black background wearing a black T-shirt with a black chair behind him, and no one would ever see his hands, so they wondered whether or not he had appendages. But in fact, he does have appendages. Steve, you got some challenge coins behind you. Do you have one of the Kash Patel revolver, machine gun, Tommy gun, skull, spider, dildo, sporting challenge coins?
No, I only have his autograph on the letter that said I lost my job thanks to him.
We're going to have so much fun today. Okay, I want to lead off. I want to start off the new year with you on this first day of the full year. It's a Friday. You're unemployed now again. Congratulations on being fired by this government. You used to live in Iowa, did you not?
I did. 7 years in the land of opportunity. What do they call it? The fields of opportunities state.
I like that. That's not bad. This guy has been there since they first broke ground on that, back when the original natives came in across the land bridge from Asia. And he wants to wish you a very happy new year as we get started.
Happy New Year to all my Iowa constituents from Chuck and Barbara Grassley at the Grassley Farm.
Happy New Year from a guy who has a 16-year-old great-grandchild, and by the time he's up for re-election, he could be a great-great-grandfather if she plays her cards right and gets married the way people used to back in the day.
The current vice president of the United States of America was -9 years old when Chuck Grassley ascended to national office.
When he got into office, people. When Chuck Grassley got into office, J.D. Vance was 9 years from being born. I just want to pause on that for a moment and tell you about a little bit about the bacon cheeseburger nationalism that I feel. I feel like this is what is driving a very normal set of people to just go, can we just stop with this? Can we just stop pretending? I also wanted to give you this little instinct on why nothing is going to happen. One of the reasons is Chuck Grassley. Like the status quo, if you've been there for, what has he been there, like 54 years or something?
Something like that. Yeah, between Congress and Senate. Yeah.
So this is known as gerontocracy. If you guys are new to the program in 2026, we're happy to have you on. This is a frustrating concept that we regularly reference here. Gerontocracy is not ruled by the elite, like aristocracy. It's not ruled by the best, which is what oligarchy theoretically would mean. It's not ruled by the many, like democracy. Gerontocracy is ruled by the elderly, which is basically a great word to describe what our Congress is, and more importantly, our Senate, which has like an average age of almost 10 years older than that.
It's getting close to a kakistocracy, which is government by the worst people.
Well, I'd like to know what there's got to be like a necrocracy or something. There's got to be a word for rule by the dead, where we're actually dealing with problems that were done 120 years ago. We should find this word, and we're going to make it up if it doesn't exist already. But rule by the dead, or rule by policies that were put in place by people who are now all dead. That's That's our big problem.
Can I proffer an idea for the bacon cheeseburger nationalism movement that you're putting forth?
I will let you, and then we're going to play bacon cheeseburger nationalism. Yes.
I would like to propose perhaps a faction within the bacon cheeseburger nationalism movement, since you've been credibly accused by the soon-to-be former co-deputy director of the FBI of being a Fed boy who does weird things with Hot Pockets in his basement, and he gets paid for the facts now. Could there be a Hot Pocket movement within bacon cheeseburger nationalism? And that's very American. That's very like latchkey kid.
Nope.
Sometimes you need calories fast, and we want stuff done faster.
No. We will have none of that. This guy is Shane Lynn. He's on X, and he made this for me and you and for all of you out there. And we're going to actually just enjoy this, kind of a smile.
Built on sweat, not sympathy. Long nights carved as legacy.
What is going on with this sign?
No shortcuts, no guarantee. You earn your spot, you earn your seat. Don't curse the ground, you choose to stand. This place was raised by callous hands. If you hate the noise, the grit, the sound, there's a bigger world outside this town. No excuses, no revision. Say it straight, this is the mission. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Built on work and conviction. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Say it loud, say it with conviction. If you can't eat this, you don't belong. This table's set for the strong. Stand your ground, hold your position. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism.
I'm going to definitely post this over on Locals for people who want to be able to hear it. But that's the bacon cheeseburger national. I got a couple of gripes with the lyrics a little bit. I may work with Shane on there. If you guys haven't heard, he also did the song about Redacted, and we're gonna get some tunes out on that man's behalf. He's a former law enforcement officer as well, and found himself in a rough spot. So kind of an interesting backstory, and he's been making this as a therapeutic option. Anyway, I think you guys might get a kick out of that. Making the flag fly. I also get really weirded out when people AI me into things. like what year is this? We know what's happening. We're leaving with this.
It's a catchy tune. It's up there with my walk-up music.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Steve, let's get negative right away, if that's okay with you.
Always. It's
pragmatic. I feel like we've been positive for at least 12 minutes, and that is the limit that I have. I made a New Year's resolution to some of my buddies, different group than the Suspendables chat. And I said, my New Year's resolution is to be less mean for most of January 26. I don't want to make resolutions that I can't capitalize on. And so that's my hope.
Short runway. I mean, is your quitter's day right around like the 16th. MLK Day?
it's one after. It's like the most of equals like 50% plus 0.1. So yeah, here's why I think nothing's going to happen, folks. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking this. And so when I talk about this revolution that needs to happen in this country, we heard, it needs to be 1770. No, it doesn't need to be 1776. It needs to be backyard-oriented, homegrown, local, regular people who are like, I'm sick of you lying to me. What you're saying is clearly bullshit. So let's take it home and do what we want to do here. And you ready for the wildest thing that we're going to do this year?
Fully ready.
I want to endorse Eric Swalwell for governor of California also. And I'm going to show you why.
I'm all ears.
Okay, good. Let's start with FBI Director Kash Patel, who signed a letter relieving you of your duties that he gave you 4 days prior in order to relieve you of said duties because he is a complete scumbag. Folks, I want you to tune into the words you hear here. This is John Solomon, known propagandist and mouthpiece for this regime. He and Kash Patel were signed on as the people that were allowed to look at the records of Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. So these guys are 100% Donald's guys. Okay? And what he says is, and tune your ear, I want you to look at what we did in 2025 because you can expect a lot more of that in 2026. If that is not a black pill for most of you who think like the plan is unfolding, Steve, I'm going to have your reaction after we play it. Hold your barf bags. Here we go.
Last question. All the things that you've seen, all the weaponization you've uncovered since you came in and found these secret files and restricted files, all those things. Beyond those who are already charged, do you think you've seen other crimes that might eventually get referred to justice?
Yes, we are looking at so many different leads on criminal activity by those who are in positions of power. And we're not going to stop until every single one of those is fully exposed. The documents are provided either to Congress or the courts of law, and make every referral we can to the Department of Justice. These indictments that you've seen and the ones that you're going to see coming up here in this near future are just the beginning. But I have to remind the audience one thing. Everybody's like, it's 7 months. What have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
Well, they spent 20 years building this disease temple of corruption. It takes a little bit of time to defeat it and beat it down. And I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to look at the work the men and women of the FBI have done so far in these 7-8 months and just imagine what we're going to do come the year end.
The FBI looks a lot more like the one I covered 20, 30 years ago than the one I had to endure and cover the last 10 years. And that's a great credit to you, Director. There's no doubt about it. The president said it today. We know it's true. What an honor to have you.
World-class knob slobbery. Okay, hold on, Steve, before you respond, and I was going to let you respond, but the chat picked up on exactly what I heard. Did he say gay man?
Last question. All the things that you've seen, all the weaponization you've uncovered since you gay man and found these secret files or restricted files.
Freudian slip.
Just two dudes who love hanging out with other dudes, just talking about how great they did. Listen, 9 months of progress has been made. Take it apart. Go for it. Whatever you think.
I mean, look, if we have to look at their past performance and project it out in the future, what have they been able to provide to us? We locked up a brony bomber and trapped an innocent autistic man and accused him of being the January 6th bomber. I mean, that's something that we should all really take a lot of pride in, right? We're reasonably comfortably sure that we have the guy who used his own phone, car, and credit card and yet eluded you as a criminal mastermind for 5 years. And we got the Epstein list redacted, 99% of it. So just expect more of that in the future. And this FBI is going to look a lot like John Solomon's FBI from 30 years ago, the one that executed a bunch of people at Waco.
Didn't they do Ruby Ridge too? I mean, that's kind of a really interesting. It looks a lot more like the one that we love. Wasn't that run by Janet Reno 30 years ago?
You know, I don't know if I've ever told you this. I was at SWAT Basic when Janet Reno passed, and we did a moment of silent reflection on her behalf.
What did you reflect upon?
The Cubs winning the World Series.
Oh,
yeah,
strong. That's a sports ball thing.
Yes.
Well, way to go Cubs back then. And yeah, anyway, Janet Reno used to run the FBI that John Solomon was most proud of. That's a hell of a claim. Wasn't PatCon going on at then? Weren't they setting up like the Patriot movements the same way that Kash Patel said he was going to go and fix?
Potentially the Oklahoma City bombing was a device of the United States government. Yes.
So is it Margaret Brown that you interviewed?
I did. Yep.
What did you take away from that? Is that a convincing argument that the federal government was involved in a setup?
Oh, extremely compelling argument that she makes. I mean, there's credible evidence that there were undercovers and informants involved, and one informant wanted to actually come out as a whistleblower, and they threatened to take away all of his veteran benefits, and there may or may not have been ATF agents waiting for Timothy McVeigh to meet them in the underground parking garage, and he just went off script and decided instead to demolish the front of the building.
That's not good. That's the kind of FBI that we were expecting, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like I had a face-to-face conversation with the current director of the FBI, and he assured me that these sorts of plots and entrapment schemes would be stopped entirely under his leadership. And then they went forward and look at all the production that they put out there in 2025. So many vulnerable people identified and groomed through the use of undercover employees and confidential human sources to embrace their worst ideas and do something that they were never predisposed or even capable of carrying forward at all. And those conversations were all happening between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday.
Free tip for you if you're new to the audience. And by the way, welcome to the audience. And by the way, make sure you've liked this video. If you're new here, the general rule is if you're online and you have some dumb ideas, let's say you're like a bacon cheeseburger nationalist, but you're also like potentially interested in doing something kind of violent because you're just fed up and irritated, which I don't blame you for. But if you make a friend online and that friend just happens to agree with all your crappiest ideas, especially the violent ones that might be potentially illegal, and that person really, really wants to also help you do those stupid ideas and is able to help you enact them for the exact amount of money that you have in your bank account because they have a national security letter looking into your finances, and then they want to actually like get together so you guys can do it, you're about to be arrested by the FBI. You are the playbook. So just be careful. That person is not your friend. That's a Fed. That's what it looks like. Since I brought it up, if you guys are on on Rumble. Will you please like this video, bump us up? We've been in the top 20 for the last couple days on the leaderboard there because of you guys. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like it. You guys are awesome about doing that. And we're getting hundreds and hundreds of people watching live now. We started off with like 6 or 7 at the beginning of last year. And looks like, as I'm looking right now, we're about 600 people watching at the moment. So keep kicking these things up. Share it with a friend. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. If you want to see when we go live, it's almost exactly at 9:30 Eastern time, except it's usually not by like a minute or two. And I'm a forgiving boss because I always want to add a little bit more stuff. And then if you're on X, make sure you like us, but follow us on one of the monetized platforms. If you don't mind, it doesn't cost anything more, just is better off for what we're doing here. And that does pay the bill. So it insulates us against somebody telling us what we can or cannot say. Steve, you want to plug, you have a YouTube channel you guys are going to start putting some effort into?
Yeah, well, we have a YouTube channel, the American Radicals Podcast, and I'm in the process of converting it over to unify under one banner, which is going to be hopefully soon at AmRadPod.
So it'll be YouTube at AmRadPod, Rumble at AmRadPod, X at AmRadPod, fill in the blank. And then we're going to get you on Spotify too. We're going to move you over to that spot just because I like, if we're putting visual in, let's do it. Okay, so folks, let's go over a document. We're kind of a loosey-goosey on Fridays in some ways. We like to kind of play it. But we also want to talk about things that are, strictly speaking, here are the words. You guys can make your own evaluation. So we'll bring some evidence of government malfeasance ongoing. And this is a defense motion that was filed in the Brian Cole Jr. pipe bomber case. If you didn't watch, I think New Year's Eve's show on the 31st earlier this week, at about 43 minutes in, I break down all of the problems. So if you're looking for like, hey, I need a primer, I don't really know why you guys think this guy didn't do it, I go through all of it in about 10 or 15 minutes. You can be caught up to date with the pings, which are weak, with the credit card receipts, which is a real sketchy way to go, and potentially even a general warrant, with the fact that they cannot identify where he physically is, and the possibility of exculpatory evidence, which was introduced as they were going into that hearing on the 30th. There are a lot of problems, and more I'm getting journalists reaching out to me going like, hey, can you help me understand? Because I don't think I get it. It's like, no, you get it. You've got exactly the problem. This was released on the 31st. So this is now 2 days old. It doesn't make a difference. Brian Cole Jr. still in custody. Steve, this is the defense motion. Do you know what this is? Have you seen this yet? Or am I going to drop on you?
I have not seen this new motion, no.
Okay. This is a request for the defense. They are opposing the government's motion, which opposes the release, and they are asking for his immediate release. Now, the real concern that I think we had early on was that they were going to just railroad this guy, and the defense wasn't going to put up a staunch resistance. That is not what is happening. What they say here is that the government's memorandum, which was filed just before the court closed, December 29th. They were having the hearing on the 30th.
He mentioned late yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. They want the court to accept an indictment that did not come from the grand jury in the district court, which is the federal court for Washington, D.C., but rather the superior court, which is the local court for D.C. Now, just because the same prosecutors can go in front of it, and just because theoretically the same population is drawn into it, there's real problems there. And they tried this BS already, and Judge Boasberg has issued an order in a different case, which is the United States versus Cavante Stewart. So this is a thing they've already tried, and they've already found that like this is on appeal now to find out whether or not it's even a legal option. They basically doubled down on something they know may not be legal. What does that say to you about sort of the desperation of the... Actually, let me rephrase my question. Have you ever sat for a preliminary hearing? You've done a lot more trials than most FBI agents.
Yes, I've done, and I've testified in them.
Tell me about why does the government avoid it? I had a couple of like defense attorney or United States attorneys, former U.S. Attorneys say, well, the government never does preliminary hearings because it can cause the agent to say the wrong thing under oath.
It certainly could, because most agents never testify at all in anything that's adversarial. And that's what a preliminary hearing is. It's adversarial. The defense gets to sort of counter any arguments that the government makes, as opposed to a grand jury where it's one-sided, where the government presents its case and can be really controlled, present just certain amounts of facts that are barely necessary to get to probable cause, because you don't need to get beyond a reasonable doubt like you do in an open court at a trial. So those sorts of processes go on, and you could say something that maybe contradicts something that is in the case file, or later on at trial, you might say something that contradicts what you said in a preliminary hearing because of the the passage of time, maybe you slip up, and then all of a sudden you have set yourself up into a trap where a defense attorney can say, well, were you lying then or were you lying now? Or you just don't remember. You're just not really a competent investigator. And that's the shade that can get thrown in every single case, let alone this one where they don't really have the goods.
Yeah, because you always go over, you read the case file, you see what you wrote, you see what it is. You have to refresh your own memory just because you've got other things going on. It's not like it's the only job. And a lot of times these things are not 90 days after the event or the arrest. They happen years and years down the line. You know what I just realized, Steve? I've actually also testified in a preliminary hearing. I forgot that I did this, but I went to a preliminary hearing in Washington, D.C. It's doable.
Sure.
It turned out, and I wasn't worried about it either. It's like, it was, they brought me in because the first day that I was on the job in Washington field office, we arrested a guy for possession of weapons. He was a felon in possession. And like 2 years later, they brought me in to do part of the preliminary hearing.
And then when you
they wanted to
reviewed your
rebring the
notes,
charges.
the defense was like, so I guess you don't know anything about this case. You've done nothing for the last 2 years other than sit like you're in the bullpen waiting to get brought in for that one moment in this preliminary hearing, which they're going to make that argument because they're zealot defenders of their client, and that's their job. And
that is their job. That is the process. The funniest thing for me was I'm just remembering, I'm like sitting down there and having that conversation and being on the stand. And I was on the stand for about 90 minutes, I want to say. So it was a pretty good direct and cross. They were like, you know, why do you, you know, how confident are you in your memory of this day? And I was like, it was my first day on the job. Like, it's one of the things that will be burned into my memory until I die, because I can remember everything about it. I remember going in the house. I remember what people said. I remember the order that was in the stack. You know, I remember the completely absurd moment of pointing my weapon system down this hallway, which turned out to be like a stairwell. You know, like your first day on the job, if you get to do an arrest before you even go into the office, my official picture on my FBI SACS badge, which is the badge to access the doors, was wearing like a military fleece because I had just gotten out of doing a search warrant and I didn't have time to put on, like, I walked in the door, I had a suit on a hanger and I took a picture wearing my fleece. I was the only guy I knew that had a casual picture. Everybody else was in a suit and I was not. It was really funny. But yeah, I remember looking down there being like, well, I'm here. I might as well start yelling stuff down the hallway and or down the stairwell, turning on my strobe light, seeing a pair of hands, seeing another pair of hands, seeing a little boy come up and putting him and getting him out the door and then bringing the guy up who ended up being our subject and putting handcuffs on him. Not very many people get to do that for their first, 90 minutes on the job, drive in, do a deadly force policy briefing in the middle of the dark in the rain at 5 a.m. in a shitty part of Washington, D.C., then go knock down the door with the ram, which was my job. It did take me 2 hits, but still give me a break. And then roll in and then do the arrest of the guy, detain him, and then have him admit to having weapons in the first conversation we ever had. It's like, hey, man, do you have any weapons on you? He's like, yeah, I got a pocket knife in my hand. Or he didn't say he had a pocket knife. He said no. And then we found a pocket knife on search. And we're like, do you have any other weapons? And he's like, yeah, there's a gun in my bed. And there's another gun in the bag next to my bed. And we're like, Roger that.
Did you threaten to charge him with an additional felony for lying to you like they did to Brian Cole
like a normal
Jr.?
person. You're like, okay, dude, got it. Thank you for being honest with us. Like, I don't want to like have people lose their mind and find it. We also found weed and left weed on the search warrant, which blew my mind for the first day. And then we were there for PCP, which I didn't know was a thing until 2016. I went most of my life not thinking that that angel dust and PCP was a real thing that people cared about, but it's still a thing in DC. So anyway, all right, should we go to this doc? Sorry, do you want to reflect on that for a sec?
I mean, you're probably one of the few who have had that experience on their first day, let alone had that experience in general in the FBI, as most of them are pretty much indoor dogs. And if they got to go out there and put handcuffs on somebody, that's for the SWAT team to do. We just deploy them and let us know when you got them. And hopefully this gets pled out because I don't want to have to testify at a preliminary hearing.
It was one of those experiences. I was like, well, check that box. Like, people told you're never going to do that stuff. I did it the first day. And only because I didn't have a real boss, because my boss was actually an acting supervisor. I guarantee if I had my boss afterwards, it wouldn't happen. All right. So for the reasons detailed below, the court should not accept this purported indictment, nor should it read Chief Judge Boasberg's issuing a stay in this memorandum. This is that United States versus Cavante Stewart case, as allowing it to accept an indictment contrary to the federal rules of criminal procedure. So they already know that they're in violation of what is like the procedural rules of the court. And they were so desperate to avoid this. My guess is, regardless of what anyone says in the defense of the government, because I don't need to play that game, I think that they're desperate to not have to show probable cause and have it ripped apart. The things that could be introduced in a preliminary hearing are much broader and much more wide. You could actually have the entire case fall apart right there at prelim, as opposed to going through this long process and discovery and all the expense and keeping this guy locked up. Yes or no?
I think so. I think there's going to be demand from the defense to produce some of the evidence that's necessary. And the evidence that they do have, we've gone over, is so weak and so thin that a fair-minded judge might just outright dismiss the entire case and might say, you have not met the burden of probable cause to hold this individual. And you might be able to indict him in the superior court, the local court, as DC operates, for something different. I mean, it'd be like you were arrested for, say, a robbery offense, and they felt kind of like, oh, we might not have the goods on him. So a federal robbery case, let's go to the state court and indict him for a theft. And then that should be the reason he's held. And we shouldn't have to have these conversations. They're independent of each other entirely. And the defense is doing a good job of pointing that out.
I'm most worried that this judge is going to give like unfair deference to the government as a general rule, which is what we continue to see here. So they do a little introduction about what's going on. They run down this page. I'm going to go down to page 7 because it's specifically, I think, a little bit more interesting. Listen, folks, I will post a link to this. It's on the court listener webpage. So if you guys want to read through this and if you want to keep yourself abreast of the changes that are going on in the filings, then I'll just make them available to you as I get them and I see them. Here's where it gets kind of interesting. What it appears to me from reading this is that the defense is taking a little jab at the prosecution, saying that they blew it. And we keep asking the question, are they doing it on purpose? Is this intentional? Or is this something that is happening as kind of a mix-up, a mistake? Is it malfeasance, or is it sort of negligence? In which case, maybe even sort of like maybe not criminal negligence, but it just feels really like a terrible decision. 17, and a follow-up. This is Mr. Williams' email. So Mr. Williams is an attorney for Mr. Cole, the defendant. Mr. Shorman acknowledged what's noted above. Rule 5.1 was not discussed in the preliminary hearing. Only the date of the detention hearing, December 15th, was discussed. In other words, if you guys were not paying attention, he was arrested on December the 4th. He was supposed to be seen for his detention hearing, decide whether or not they were going to keep him or give him, bail or whatever else. That was supposed to happen on the 15th, and they kicked it back. They agreed to postpone it until December the 30th, which is what ended up happening. But what they did not bring up is the preliminary hearing, which is going to be the Rule 5.1 that's being discussed. And then we're going to quote directly. The government responded on these issues. As Mr. Shorman indicated below, the parties have not yet scheduled a Rule 5.1 preliminary hearing, giving the defense request to continue the December 15th detention hearing, at which we would typically have scheduled the preliminary hearing. Let us know if you have a view on when to schedule that hearing. Had there been a no bill in this matter, this is going to grand jury. They didn't go to grand jury, apparently. Apparently, they didn't do anything. They didn't actually take any proactive steps. And I think they thought this guy was just going to roll over. That's kind of what I'm getting from this, and I'll get your impression as well. Had there been a no bill in this matter, we would have promptly reported it to the court pursuant to Federal Rule of Procedure 6F. The government has not yet sought a grand jury indictment in this case, given the defense's request to continue the detention hearing and your agreement to exclude time under the Speedy Trial Act 30-day indictment deadline. Additionally, there are no sitting grand juries in the district between January 19th and 1/5. They didn't have a grand jury, but he was arrested 2 weeks prior on December the 4th. What do you make of a government deciding not to seek a grand jury? I know you've done arrests on complaint if you had to. Do you, generally speaking, go get an indictment right away afterwards if feasible?
The next available grand jury, you would be there. That would be what you would want to report back to the judge in this case. And there was extenuating circumstances that you had to miss a month for one reason or another, like, I don't know, like a worldwide pandemic. They didn't put down a grand jury. Then you would have an excuse. Right. But it's not like you don't know the schedule for grand jury. And if you're in Washington, D.C., it's a little bit different. Like I was in the District of Nebraska. Grand jury would be seated for 1 week a month. If you're in a major city, there's grand juries that are going every single day. And that should have been available to them. And you would think that if you arrest somebody on a complaint, you immediately go to grand jury and get that situated, unless you're either incompetent or you're just hubris driven and you think, wow, we don't actually have to do this. It's not necessarily apples to apples, but it reminds me of the agent that we had in my office out in Iowa who was not really well briefed on criminal matters. He was a national security guy. He winds up making a criminal arrest and he took the guy to the local jail and then just left him. And then like a month later, the jail called up and was like, are you coming to get this guy? And he's like, oh, I didn't know that there was something else to do beyond that. Like, I guess He just watched a spaghetti Western and thought the sheriff takes a bad guy and slams the door shut, and then the case is closed. It's not like there's any sort of process that goes on beyond it with a prosecution involved.
That guy came right out of the academy and didn't know that there was supposed to be an initial within the closest available time. Like the same day people get initial appearances.
Yes. Yeah. No idea. No, he left this guy in a local jail for like a month.
Does that say something about, so here's the question I continue to ask, and I actually don't know the answer to this, but it does lead me to the Eric Swalwell thing, which we'll get to, which I know is going to make people's heads spin. You've been talking to people at FLETC. You want to dish some kind of like the kind of the rumor intel that's coming around out of there? Because my question is have we broken the federal employment system to the point where the Trump administration claims there's no more DEI? We just saw an entire article and a book released by Nikki Parker, aka FBI Barbie, who's been reporting on Fox, who is exactly a DEI FBI agent. There is zero chance there was not a better man to fill the job than the useless woman that runs around. She's tiny, she's blonde, she's not particularly intelligent, she's not good under pressure. And by the way, I had multiple agents reach out from Miami laughing, saying she was so lousy at doing the job that she just bounced from squad to squad to squad, the thing they kind of accused Kyle Seraphin of, which I think is really funny. We've seen the same people that defend Nikki Parker say I was a problem. She was going into coordinator jobs, which essentially, one of them was coordinator of crimes upon the high seas, where essentially you're the hotline. If there was a crime on a cruise ship, you'd take the call and then hand it off to the violent crime squad to go deal with it. So she was literally just like a secretary for them. Anyway, this woman wrote a whole thing about DEI, which apparently is coming back into focus, but it seems like, I hate to say, maybe that actually got so entrenched that no matter what you call it, that's what we've got coming on. And it sounds like the Trump administration didn't fix this at FLETC. Yes, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, look, Nikki Parker, who left in 2022 after prior to her leaving the FBI, she arranged herself a nice landing spot at Fox News, and Jim Jordan liked her, thought she was hot or something, and put her to go testify. And 3 years later, she now comes out with her positions on DEI breaking the FBI, which is a poll-tested, very safe, very Fox News things to do. But to FLETC, I know some people that are there. I know instructors there. I know people that are students there. And what's been reported back to me is things like individuals arriving to get trained up to be ICE who don't speak English. And they're being told, just pass them on through. They don't need to be able to speak English.
It doesn't seem like you should have to speak English if you want to deport people from America.
No, I mean, this individual is going to be going to Puerto Rico, where we have to do deportations, I guess, for reasons. There was also an individual who arrived in a wheelchair to engage in law enforcement.
To be a federal agent?
To be a federal agent.
In a wheelchair?
Yes.
Is that real? That sounds like a joke.
No,
I mean, that sounds like something that we would joke about.
Dead serious, arrived in a wheelchair. And apparently the age restrictions that are supposed to be imposed on federal agents, you got to be, unless you get a military waiver, 37 is the hard line, because you got to be able to do 20 years in service. Right. Guys showing up 47, 50 years old. I mean, maybe there's some sort of waiver for that, because you saw like Dean Cain was volunteering to go work for them. So I guess they're waiving that sort of policy. But not famous people arriving that are well in excess of 37 years old, wheelchair-bound people. And then the last one, definitely rumored, but worth throwing out there, especially on a Friendly Friday, is that apparently there's a dude walking around with multiple women and appears to be tricking them out like a pimp. So lots of fun stuff going on out at FLETC.
There's a black guy that's rolling around through the halls of FLETC that may or may not be pimping out a series of women, as reported to you by people at FLETC. FLETC, folks, is the Federal Law Enforcement
Training Center.
Training Center, yeah.
It's in Brunswick, Georgia. The exception of DEA and FBI, they have their own standalone academies. Every other 1811 service goes to FLETC, or they go to Artesia. They get a generalized training, and then they go to specific stuff that they're going to be doing within their own respective agency.
You know what? I wasn't going to play this here, and we're going to continue with Brian Cole, but we always kind of do like kind of piecemeal and grab bag stuff. I wonder if the guy who's in the wheelchair is actually just interested in going after things that are not maybe more kinetic. So is it possible that he's just trying to go after this priority of the Attorney General?
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people, so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you. If you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it, and quickly before it's too late.
What do you mean?
I mean that we need to control the platforms, all the social platforms. We need to stack rank the authenticity of every person that expresses themselves online and take control over what they are saying based on that ranking.
The government.
The government should
control the social media.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe he's going to do social media enforcement against free speech. Maybe he needs to control the First Amendment so that we can. By the way, that was a Jewish billionaire who owns a cyber warfare company. He makes the argument that perhaps we should control things so that everyone can be safe and be able to speak with the approved things. You could do that from a wheelchair, Steve.
Social media squads probably need a program manager, P-Corps, program coordinator. So Nikki Parker might be able to find herself back in federal law enforcement to be able to handle those intakes. Speech has no qualifier. Just
hold on, that's not true.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech.
So I don't know what you were trying to say there, but
we will target you for your speech. That's what I heard.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And
I cannot help but laugh at this ridiculous stuff. By the way, Kash Patel, I probably could dig it up too, also had the same position. We need to regulate. There's too much clickbait. There's too much misinformation, malinformation, disinformation. The argument that nothing will happen, for me, is most obvious when I realize that the same people are saying the same thing. I've got some crazy stuff that I'll play in a moment.
Wait, let me inject one thing on Kash Patel. An independent
you can inject,
citizen,
hold on, as a general rule, you can inject anything you want on Kash Patel on my program. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Even if it's hate speech, it's still free speech.
It is free speech. Apparently, as a hobbyist podcaster at the time, an independent individual not representing a particular arm agency, department, or bureau of the government said things like, if I was ever in charge of meting out some sort of sentence and found out that you violated individuals' rights, like the Brony bomber, and jammed him up so that you can impress dad because you're so damn thirsty for Donald Trump's approval that you go to jail for the rest of your life. That's why he autographed the letter for me to fire me. So I guess I was kind of targeted for free speech / hate speech, or that was called veiled threat.
Veiled threat. The veiled threat was that you would give somebody due process and then not want to have an assassination or not want to have an execution.
Offend the sensibilities of the current Justice Department.
That is pretty offensive, though, if you're being real about it. I mean, I think everybody can agree that that is not nice. And so anyway, people are getting a little bit frustrated with this stuff. They are frustrated because the status quo continues. Let's finish this little footnote here on the Brian Cole. Guys, if you want to read the thing, it's 20 pages. Most of it is legalese. Most of it is citing precedent and reasons why. But this little piece here was interesting. And again, I think it goes to tell us that the government is still the government. The people that are in the government still act the way that people in the government did. And that's because you can't reform people without changing personnel. There was this one dude, and he used to talk about total personnel warfare before he got captured by the industry. Here it is, footnote number 2. The government must only make the report of no true bill under Federal Rules of Procedure 6F, quote, if a complaint or information is pending against the defendant. So the government's response does not say whether it sought and failed to receive such an indictment prior to Mr. Cole's arrest. From discovery, the team is aware that the federal agents had placed the defendant under surveillance for a long period of time before his arrest, suggesting, again, that they had plenty of time to seek an indictment. This is the really wild part, because he was arrested under a complaint, and we're going to get into that real quickly just so people have another reason why I think this is abnormal. Outside of Indian country, where you worked, and outside of January 6th, where the government basically bent all over itself and broke all of its normal rules to be able to get people arrested, the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, they engage in long-term, protracted investigations. When they arrest people, it's intentional. There's not exigent circumstances almost ever. And so the number of complaints that people write outside of Indian country in normal FBI, non-J6, might be single digits in a 20-year career.
Sure.
If they spent time as an investigator the entire time.
Yeah,
Yes?
I mean, it would be like a bank robbery, and then the police happen to arrest the guy right there.
And so you write a complaint and you put on some federal paper, and then you go and you get the indictment knowing that he won't be released because you have a federal arrest warrant going along with the complaint.
Yeah, the complaint is exigency. We have to do this now to make sure that this guy is in handcuffs and detained. We're going to take it to the judge. But you go to grand jury right after that because you have to follow the process.
Steve, could you take a case to grand jury and not get an indictment, get no true bill, which is incredibly rare for federal agents. But let's say you didn't have it, which, by the way, they've had that happen now in this Justice Department has taken things, whether it be grand jury nullification or otherwise. Maybe they just didn't have the goods. You could take a case to grand jury, get no true bill, and then go get a complaint from a magistrate judge and do an arrest. True?
Yes. Yeah, you could. It would be, I think, violative of ethics, but yes.
Ethics, yes, but rules of criminal procedure, no. And this is what the defense is making the argument. The AUSA in this case is very clearly saying that if we had done this thing and we went out and tried to get, after arresting him, if we'd got no true bill, then we would be required to disclose to you that we sought an indictment and couldn't get it. And then, of course, the preliminary hearing would happen. What they say is kind of obscuring the fact that I think the defense believes they actually took it to a grand jury and didn't get it. And that's why they went to the complaint, because they were, as you said, so damn thirsty for a win for dad.
Or at the very least, you have this guy for 5 years investigating. Clearly, there's no other bombs that have happened, so there is no exigency. You're supposed to be this law enforcement agency that we fund with $11 billion that has all these cool tools and abilities and capabilities, and yet you didn't do what you're always supposed to do, which is go to a grand jury, because you want to use best practices all the time with very rare exceptions, exigency being like the one exception.
Right.
If at all possible, follow the regular process. And clearly you didn't here, but there was no exigency. So we just want to point out that there was some special circumstances that you saw fit to allude, and you have yet to explain that to us. You had the 5 years, and yet you didn't do it. And now we're up against it, and you're saying, well, we can't get to a grand jury because of the way the calendar worked. It's almost like you planned it out that way, and we as a defense want an explanation for that.
Interestingly enough, the whistleblower that went forward to Tom Massey's office and to Jim Jordan's office regarding this particular case stated that they believe this agent working for the FBI, current FBI supervisor, believes that the surveillance did not, in fact, actually start very early at all. So I'm very curious to see what they say about having the defendant under surveillance for a long period of time, because I have it on pretty good authority, having read that whistleblower complaint, that there was no SOG, which is the specialized surveillance team that I used to be on. There was no SOG request. There's a formal process. The FBI puts out a form, and the case agent is required to fill out that form requesting surveillance assets. You can do surveillance anytime you want. You write up a 302, a surveillance 302. You can do a surveillance log. There's some form for that. I can't remember what it's called anymore, but there is one. I used to do them. But if you want the special resources, just like if you wanted Steve Friend's SWAT team to go serve a warrant for you, you fill out the SWAT request, and there's a special form for that. There's a special form for dedicated surveillance assets. And you let them know whether you need aviation, whether you need a pole cam and technical. So I'm wondering if that long surveillance period was actually technical surveillance as opposed to physical surveillance, which is what we're kind of believing it is just by using that word. The FBI uses the word Pfizer versus Elsher and some of the other things. What is Elsher? That is surveillance, isn't it?
That's electronic surveillance. That's normally when you record an interview audio.
So I'm trying to remember what the abbreviation is for technical surveillance, but this is your FISA type stuff or your Title IIIs. And I wonder if that's the case.
Is it possible, because we live in a time still where the current FBI director hasn't changed, integrated program management, where you have a quota system and they claim all these statistical accomplishments, one of which is surveillance? You have to hit a quota for surveillance. And let's just say Brian Cole is one of those 186 phone numbers that was originally ruled out. But as opposed to just assessing that he's autistic and definitely wasn't the guy, well, let's get some stats out of it. So let's drive by his house and say we did some surveillance. And if you went back into the case files and found that surveillance was claimed in January, February, March 2021, the defense might not know that quota system exists and is like, hey, you guys have been doing surveillance on this guy since 2021. Maybe they don't know, or the actual surveillance, the official surveillance, started right after Steve Baker and Joe Hanneman named Shawnee Kirkhoff, and they had to immediately move all heaven and earth in order to find the Brony bomber because they got scooped by a couple of Blaze journalists on their own case.
It's really possible. What's also interesting is that you don't know if you're going to get really, one of the reasons why really good defense attorneys often have experience on the other side. So you and I both know the best AUSAs basically plan on being there for a couple of years, kicking ass, taking names, they turn around and then they sell themselves to the highest bidder. And that's the way our system works. You get experience on one side, you can be really good on the other. This paragraph 21 is pretty interesting. And this is on page number 8 of the filing. It says, recognizing the government usually seeks to avoid preliminary hearing, defense counsel offered a compromise. The reason they know that the government actually tries to avoid these prelim hearings, as we talked about here, is because the guys that are doing the defense out of Nashville or out of Tennessee, I'm not sure, I think it's Nashville, they are former AUSAs, knowing the playbook and the way that the government actually works. And so they actually offered, hey, you guys don't want to go to a preliminary hearing because probably they don't have it. What if we did a deal where we'll exchange dates for preliminary hearing, and we would be interested in waiving the preliminary hearing rights in exchange for bail under a strict set of agreeable positions placed on Mr. Cole? We let him out of prison while we do our defense and let him go back to his life a little bit, under custodial care, but we won't go and make you show probable cause. And they were desperate to do neither of those things. And this is the argument that I'm going to make here. And this is my broader point as we go into 2026. I suspect what we're seeing is more of the same. The government continues to do the government, and it doesn't matter who's in charge. If you haven't changed all the people, either through exile or execution, figuratively speaking, I guess that would be like, termination from their position. Why would you expect anything different? I'm going to play you something about Mar-a-Lago and Jack Smith. I'm going to play you something about the Somalis. And we're looking at this case right here. The same game is being played by the same people, and it doesn't even have to be political. I would actually argue that Jack Smith's move against Trump was just trying to be successful in the job he was asked to do, because nobody ever questions. And if you do, you end up like Steve Friend and Kyle Seraphin sitting and talking to you on a podcast on a Friday morning instead of going into work and leaving at noon after lunch because you're on Federal Friday. What do you think?
I think you make a good point. Look, Jack Smith specifically, he represents everything that we call out about the government, where they lost their prime directive. They're interested in the outcome. He was given this case and said, put that orange man who's literally Hitler into prison so he can't run again. And he was going to use everything at his disposal to do it. He looked at the law as not a shield to protect people against fraud and force, but as a tool, as a sword to go after people, and said, hey, you're standing close to the line. I know if we were actually doing a sports ball reference, like that's inbounds, so the catch is good, but what if I get a little bit creative with the way the language here is, and I say things like hate speech, or your speech is actually fraud, and I can redraw that line behind your feet. Now you're out of bounds. I'm going to view this as an opportunity to get to the outcome that we want. And all of those people, Jack Smith, I guess, is the exception to that, are still involved in the federal government. All the talk about how the current FBI has uncovered how they buried these Minneapolis investigations, these frauds for years under the Biden administration, all of those agents who buried those cases still work for the FBI. They have not been rectified. They have not been removed. There has no been exiles of any of them. So why would we expect a different result?
Steve, I don't like what you said.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
So there you go. All right, folks, if you're watching the program, and I see many of you are, and it's really exciting to see the audience kick up, thanks so much. Will you please subscribe to the channel? Check us out in the future. It doesn't have to be every day, but I love it when you guys are tuning in. We're going to sit here and debunk the lies. That's what we're going to try to do here. Rumble, it's rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin if you want to find us there. Our growth on YouTube was exponential last year, and I hope that continues, and you guys are a big part of that. So share it with a friend. All you got to do is send youtube.com/@Kyle Seraphin. Make sure you guys have notified yourself when they're coming live. Drop a comment on something you agree on, something you disagree on, something that I didn't think of. I like it when I learn things from you. The audience has a breadth of experience, and I regularly see those. And if you're watching over on Spotify, then do the same thing. And also know that you are watching it on the best place to watch it, because you get the most clean version. And of course, you can fast forward, you can listen to audio only, and you can listen to the ads or not. And you're going to hear a Spotify ad probably right now. All right, you can join us on Locals if you want to support what we're doing. KyleSeraphin.com. If you join the YouTube as a subscriber or as a member over there, you're also going to get some really interesting stuff that we're going to be doing in 2026. A lot of it's going to be gear oriented, because that's my real passion. I wish I didn't have to talk about politics. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to buy the gear that I want if the nation continues the way it is, and our current pro 2A Pam Bondi, yes, I'm saying that with sarcasm, decides to do the things that the administration does, like fight the National Firearms Act and make us register with a $0 tax because they have to keep track of you not paying a tax on things like suppressors and short barrel rifles and stuff. That's where my real passion is. That's where I would spend all my time talking if we had time. When people reach out to me, if you want to lure me into a conversation, start with gun stuff. And Steve knows that's true. Okay, here's the argument that I'm going to be making The government's just doing what the government has been doing. We're going to cut back to Steve Friends for his reaction to this. I don't think you've seen this. So, Steve, tune in. This is a hearing that was made public. It was about a month ago with Jack Smith behind closed doors.
Yeah, so that famous photograph, what we have now learned, and the government has had, Jack Smith and his prosecutors have had to admit that that was staged. And those top secret classified sheets that all the public saw and said, oh my God, look at those top secret documents, those were placed there by the FBI. What Jack Smith admitted in court this week was that, in his word, they mishandled the classified documents and misrepresented those to the court. Maria, that's a kind way of saying we tampered with the evidence, then we lied to the court about it. And they got caught when President Trump's lawyers and the other co-defendants raised this issue and said, look, the documents here don't match up. The documents that were presented to us don't match the digitally scanned records of when they were taken from Mar-a-Lago. And Jack Smith, not only did they tamper with that and lie to the court about it, but he's now admitted to the court that he doesn't know how that happened. He's only offered a number of possible explanations for how that could have happened. So he's absolutely blown the chain of custody. And again, he has a prosecutor, lead prosecutor in this case, Jay Bratt, who met with White House counsel and a representative of the National Archives in several times in the weeks before Jack Smith was even appointed. This reeks of crossfire hurricane when the Obama-Biden administration fabricated evidence before the FISA court, lied to the court about it to pursue Donald Trump, and now we're seeing it again in this classified documents case. The judge could dismiss this case at any point in time, Maria. I think the only reason
That's not news. That was before Ratcliffe was put in as the CIA director. You can see his title was former DNI at that point.
Yeah, Johnny Ratcliffe, as Kash Patel likes to call him.
Johnny, he sounds like he's in like a bad gangster movie. Like, did you ever see the movie Johnny Dangerously?
Yes.
Someday we should do just a sit down. I don't even we'll get demonetized, so maybe I could just do it on Rumble. We'll just do like a sit down watch, and I'll just pull Johnny Dangerously, which is one of my never trust a man whose last name is an adverb. Yeah, he's like it's Johnny Ratcliffe. I love the cool familiarity. I call him Petey. Some people call him Pete Hegseth or Peter, but I call him Petey because it makes me sound like we're buddies. These guys are gross, but yes, this claim that the government just did whatever it took and they left the process behind. That's what I'm getting at. And I have another thing that's going to make you kind of cringe because it's not like they stopped.
The other thing to it is also the PR element. Why did those photographs get leaked out? Because they were seeking the PR.
Looks so damning to have a bunch of cover sheets on the ground. Mm-hmm. They were just there in the middle of the hallway. Steve, we just found them like that. This was an establishing
shot. The maids vacuum around them regularly at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, the maids are like, oh shit, there's more classified stuff here. Okay, so here's the broader point that I want to make, though. They did that in the Mar-a-Lago case. You could make the argument that it was because, quote unquote, get Trump. I'm going to make a more dangerous argument. And this is the same argument that you and I have made to Trevor Aronson, who wrote The Terror Factory. Trevor's original sort of expectation was the FBI, John Solomon's favorite FBI 30 years ago, FBI, went after black and brown people because they're meanies and they're racist. That was essentially Trevor Aronson's claim. I'm belittling it a little bit. And I like Trevor, but I think I've convinced him that there's more to it than that. I think you have been part of that as well.
Yes, I think we're effectively bringing him strictly into the bacon cheeseburger nationalist movement. I'm going to send
him a Five Guys coupon or something. All right. And we've got a story that we're going to do, a playbook story that is exactly that. It's another brown guy, theoretically. I mean, he's a Mexican guy whose last name is Garza. We covered it earlier this week, but I want to cover it again because Steve's got even more insight. We have the affidavit. The idea that the FBI set this person up because of like some sort of racial animus, no. The idea that they went after Donald Trump because of some sort of political animus, no. The same bullshit tactics of we're willing to lie, cheat, and steal to win because we care about the outcome and not the process is the argument we've made. And so I think that leaves us in this uniquely radioactive position for both sides of the aisle. Is that an accurate description?
I think so. I mean, I think
we're not the MAGA guys that people want. We don't go cheerlead for one side or the other. So I look at it and go, you guys think that it's about what you think it is. And that's true if you go into the narrow timeline. But if you zoom back out, you can see the trend is the government just covers the government's actions because that's what the government does.
Yes. And if you will, the pendulum swings back and forth, you will find yourself on the outside of power. And as long as that attack dog remains empowered and still has those teeth, there will come a time when you will find yourself in the crosshairs of it. And yet they continue to go back into power, back out of power, back into power. And they never come to the ultimate conclusion that you have to eliminate the attack dog if you want it to happen because they kind of like it. when they're
There's
in
free
power.
speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Steve, you keep doing this hate speech, and I have to keep flagging you. That's the hate speech flag that you've given hate speech.
As a callback to the 2008 opportunity loss there, we had to suspend the free market to save the free market, right?
Ooh. Listen, let's make it real simple. Let's do it in a soundbite for people because this is easy to remember. Depending on what political party you represent, you want to make an argument that this government or that government is the problem. And I'm going to tell you that I believe bacon cheeseburger nationalist position is the government is the problem because there's no difference between this government and that government. Here's my evidence coming from Scott Pelley, who I probably should stop making fun of because I love making fun of media people. And sometimes they're actually really nice people in person. Maybe Scott Pelley's a really great guy, but I hate the way that he presents this. And this is an argument that is exactly the same thing as they set up Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Because it was advantageous to the government case, did the same thing under this administration.
So the judges are saying some incredible things.
Ryan Goodman is a law professor at New York University who heads a nonpartisan law journal. His team has analyzed hundreds of suits filed against the administration, and he didn't imagine what judges were saying to the Trump Justice Department.
We found over 35 cases in which the judges have specifically said, what the government is providing me is false information. It might be intentionally false information, including false sworn declarations time and again.
In court records compiled by Goodman, Democratic and Republican appointed judges are critical of the Trump Justice Department's work. Highly misleading, said one judge. A serious violation of the court's order, wrote another. And a third warned, trust that had been earned over generations has been lost in weeks.
This isn't.
Should that not be the same exact words that you could see regarding that setup and that leak of the document from Mar-a-Lago?
Yes, as is every single January 6th criminal complaint.
The argument that we're making here is broader than this government, that government. You can vote your way out of this. And that's not to make people feel terrible about themselves, but the whole point that I would like you to take away is that we're dealing with a systemic problem and everybody wants to go and run to the symptoms and nobody wants to address the root cause, which is why it's really frustrating that we don't actually have a real conservative position. There's no one that's conservative that's doing this. Let's get another example. Again, you said you sat down, you were at the premiere of Government Gangsters, were you not?
Yes, Garrett O'Boyle and I were invited to Las Vegas for the premiere of the movie.
And you guys had some face-to-face time with Kash Patel.
Yeah, we met with him out in the lobby for over an hour and a half while the movie was going on. He didn't want to watch the movie, he'd seen it, so we just hung out with him. And that was when he looked us both in the eyes and said, if the election goes our way, you're coming back, give me your resumes. If it's even not at the FBI, we'll find another place for you. And that was the last time we had face-to-face interactions with him. I mean, he called us in the transition period and begged for our help and recommendations about policy changes and personnel moves and all those things that he lied about this to the Senate, and then cut off all communications in February of last year.
One of the things we wanted to see the Bureau stop doing was this, the playbook. This is not a partisan issue. So folks, if you're on the right, it's irrelevant. If you're on the left and you don't agree with me otherwise, you should agree about this. We should all come together and agree. What is the root? Can you do the most snarky Steve Friend summarization or summary of this criminal complaint for providing material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization for this guy, John Michael Garza, 21-year-old Mexican guy out of Midlothian, Texas? Can you boil it down to the dumbest version of it?
I think I can summon my inner snark a little bit on this one.
Make it so.
The FBI, and particularly the FBI director, was bragging about how they had stopped an ISIS sympathizer from providing bomb components to ISIS, when in fact they got a 21-year-old retard groomed into sending them $20 in Bitcoin twice, so $40 of Bitcoin, and that wasn't enough to make the case. So they asked him to build a bomb, and he said, I can't do that. So they said, just go get us some nail polish remover and deliver it.
That's outstanding. All right, let's go through this complaint here. And while you do that, I'm going to drag down a couple of other little clips that I want to make sure I do. Do you want to start navigating what we've got in front of us here so people can understand what it is we're navigating?
Yeah, this is the criminal complaint, which again, not an indictment,
Right.
Criminal complaint. Exigency was a matter here when it came to arresting Mr. Garza, who came to the attention of the FBI because of an online employee from the New York Police Department, probably somebody a member of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the recipient of nearly $200 million in federal funds to bring in fresh meat to the federal government.
All right.
So this individual who was working for NYPD saw Mr. Garza online, who...
This is undercover number one.
Yep. So on or about October 13th came the initial introductory conversation because he was liking ISIS stuff online, and they just started to then groom him and say, you like bad things. Let's be friends.
If you like ISIS stuff online...
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And
so you can't do that. All right. Got it. Wait a minute. Is there more to that?
I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it, and quickly before it's too late.
What do you mean?
I mean that we need to control the platforms, all the social platforms. We need to stack rank the authenticity of every person that expresses themselves online, and take control over what they are saying based on that ranking.
The government.
The government should
control the social media.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, apparently, Garza had commented on a post, and that was enough to get to the attention of the NYPD undercover and eventually to the FBI.
Good.
So they had to start their friendship with him.
Good.
And because he's a retarded, lonely guy in the panhandle of Texas who probably doesn't have any friend in the world, he starts to have this conversation with an individual who represents himself to be like a Navy SEAL of ISIS. So he wants to have a cool guy friend.
Okay, keep going. All right. So they've identified who he is, Texas driver's license, his email address, Midlothian, Texas. There's this place. FBI did some surveillance. They believe he resides there.
Oh, he was so good at OPSEC, Mr. Garza.
Hold on. Look how much he's very wealthy. He makes $8,000 a quarter.
Yeah. So that would be $16 an hour.
Okay. What was his? Why did he love ISIS so much?
NFI. I think that he represents that he doesn't like the federal government very much. I mean, maybe he's a bacon cheeseburger nationalist.
Could be. Yeah, he's going to have to deal with the bacon part of it if he thinks he's going to convert to Islam. But still, we're reading through here, and these are just like sort of like the conversations with a federal employee, an undercover agent. So that's what he's doing. So
In one of the conversations, Garza actually said that he was aware that law enforcement sometimes used online personas, and that's why he trusted this guy.
That checks. I'm scrolling through here. What else do I need to focus in on here? We're 28 pages of this.
He sent them some press releases from ISIS, and
so these
I
are
guess that was hate speech. So
there's
that
your
was
hate speech. So look at that. That's a guy.
Incriminating evidence.
Yeah.
And then finally, the push came to shove. This online undercover said, "I'm going shopping for clothes, so I need money because I'm poor and I'm ISIS." And this guy felt bad for his Navy SEAL ISIS friend, and wound up saying, "I want to send you some money. How can I do it?" And then the quote unquote ISIS friend, i.e. the government undercover, set up a crypto wallet and asked him to send $50, which Garza couldn't do because he didn't have $50. So he sent him 20.
Okay, here we go. So this is on November 20. This is November 5th of this year. This just happened.
Yes.
Offered to send money to UC1. Where's the first time? There's got to be another version on here then somewhere that I just missed.
He winds up sending...
offered to send money. He offered to send money, or did he? Got it.
So
he offered to send money after the guy gave a sob story.
He gives a sob story. I just went shopping for clothes and I have no money. He said, "Let me send you some money. I probably could send 50," and then he winds up sending 20.
Amazing.
Dollars in Bitcoin.
$20 in crypto.
Yes. So
this
he does.
Is obviously. Why is this not free speech?
Because hate speech is something we can't tolerate.
That's what I thought. Yep. Okay, so all of this stuff, this is the entire complaint. Just so you guys understand, if you were to put this out in front, imagine, okay, hold on, Steve. I'm going to put you in the other chair here. You're working this case. You've got this guy on the hook. You're not convinced because you're Steve Friend and you have principles and moral. But you're like, he's clearly got some dumb ideas and they're not very safe for America. And then they go, look, we need a win. We need a PR win. we've got some bad press because we arrested this guy who's a brony, and it turns out there's video maybe of his car driving. And so we need to do something about this. Hold on. Do I have a picture of the car driving? I feel like I should put the car up while I should have prepared this one for you. There we go. I think this is it, right? Yes. Okay. So we've got this guy, and Steve, we didn't seize the car after we did a really botched search warrant looking for bombs, but we didn't evacuate anybody around it. And so people are kind of picking up on the fact that we didn't grab the car. The car might be driving in Washington, D.C. It may actually be more likely that he was on a dash or a DoorDash sort of delivery run than he was delivering pipe bombs. And so that's looking really bad for us. And these guys, these jerks at the Blaze and Kyle Seraphin have been out there posting video of his car in motion while he's supposed to be on foot a mile away. So we got to do something, Steve. We need you to go and do a complaint. We don't have time for an indictment, but if we did, Mr. Friend, would you be willing to go in front of a grand jury and testify with an AUSA that you want to lock up a guy for material support of terrorism for 2 essentially friendly donations of $40 combined? Does that sound like a good one? You want to go do that case?
You know, I'd be fearful that I might be called to a preliminary hearing, and I'd want something stronger. So I would actually, if I'm not me and I'm everybody else currently at the FBI, I would say, let's see if he'll agree to build a bomb, which he then says, I can maybe watch it on YouTube and figure it out. Sorry, I can't figure it out. Is there something else I can do? And they said, go get the bomb components. And he goes, all right, I got my grocery list, which is actually inferior to the Brony Bomber's grocery list.
Right. Hold on. We got to find this in the complaint. So we're on paragraph 32, on or about November 14th. In response to a bomb video sent by Garza, the UC wrote, really, brother, I did not know that Wahali. I want
Durka.
Yeah, I do want you to help and support and all, but I don't know you actually committed and dreamed of doing this. I didn't know you dreamed of doing this. So he says he dreamed of doing a bombing because he's talking to a guy that he has his only friend now. Well, okay. I would never disobey my beautiful parents for the sake of Allah, he continued.
So what he's now expressing is that if his parents told him not to be in ISIS, he wouldn't do it.
So, yep, okay. But I was thinking of making my own flag in my room, but I better not.
His setup
my house
was
will be raided by the FBI. These are my favorite. These are the best. Like it's the Title III where you hear the guy going like, for the FBI agents listening here, like suck a dick or whatever, and you're like, the FBI agents are actually listening and going like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's not very nice of you, jerk. These are always really funny. They make for some pretty good wire room laughs. Here we go. UC asked what his goal was. He said to give his life to jihad, to fight for the cause of Allah. No evidence that he ever did any of this stuff, but he has sent $40 in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. I'm going to blow up as many of my enemies as possible, even if it costs me my life. Could be just strong rhetoric online, yes?
It is hate speech.
Right. Okay, so where does he go and buy the bomb making? Where's the bomb making materials?
So he lists off that he has this bullet point
here's your $20
list.
in BitPay. Actually, so like that actually was, they spent 5 pages getting to the fact that he actually finally got the $20 send, and it was on MoonPay and BitPay on 2 different days. So a grand total of $40. You cash it in, brother, to buy new weapons, he said.
And the undercover sent him multiple photos of multiple firearms and said the $20 purchased those firearms. So this is the intellect we're dealing with.
So, so here's the guns that I bought with your $40. Here's the guns I bought with the $40. And he essentially said, go get yourself something nice with my $40. Don't spend it all in one place. Guys, we don't catch the smart ones. This is something I learned at the Academy day one. I'm sure you had the same briefing, Steve.
Yep.
Hey, though, this is like a creepy old man who wants to pay you $10 to put his hand in his pocket. And he was like, there's more where that came from. There's $40. I'll be sending more money, brother. I'll send you 30 next time, not 20. There's more where that came from. This is the level of intellect we're dealing with, though. And this is important. I mean, we're making light of this.
This man's in prison right now. Yes.
Yeah, this man is in prison. He can make a shrapnel explosives, he says. I've been watching a video.
It's misspelled shrapnel, too.
That's a sharpenol, actually. I can make a sharpenol bomb. Cool. All right. Keep going. I'm gonna make so many bombs. This sounds like a guy talking to a girl. I'm gonna make so many bombs with you, girl.
This is a guy who's trying to impress his friend, who he thinks is some sort of special operator because it's his only friend.
I will make so many bombs, Akihi, or Akhi. I will pack my car packed with bombs, and I will kill many Kufar police. Does he speak Arabic? Do we understand that to be the case? This seems really awkward. Based on my training and experience, I understand Kufar is an Arabic word meaning disbelievers. Thanks, FBI agent guy. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Use
so
Google
there we
Translate.
go. Prior to his bombing attack statement, the FBI surveillance personnel realized that he purchased a gray Honda. He was holding out on him. He bought a gray Honda Civic. You bought a Honda Civic while he was just giving up those 20s? Shoot, man.
It's a half a tank of gas.
All right, I could buy the ingredients. So here's where we go. I've never made a bomb before. I have no knowledge of this, but you can make it with simple ingredients.
That he says with authority. He's an authority on this because he's watched YouTube.
Right. I don't want to make it, and then it explodes on me, though. Ha ha ha. First rule of bombs: don't make a bomb that blows up on yourself. That's a good rule. Actually, that's a really good rule. Everyone thinks that. I could buy the ingredients, he says.
Yeah, because he can't build the bomb, but he can get the components.
The brother will take the components and make the bomb himself if he'll buy them.
Yes, which now involves a second and then a third undercover because we had to boost the number of UCE stats.
Now, let me just pause for while we're going through this, folks, if you're listening. And if you're not seeing this, I'm going line by line through this complaint. It's 28 pages. By the way, the Brian Cole thing for the pipe bomber thing was like 8 or 9 pages. Very thin. That's when I say thin, it means you don't have anything. This is motive, this is ideology, this is opportunity, this is interactions, this is entrapment, this is the whole game. This is morally equivalent to entrapment, even if legally not equivalent. But the reason we're going through this is because this is the FBI's playbook. I could have written this from AI based on giving it some good parameters. Give me a low IQ person who doesn't have knowledge of the thing they want to do, and give me a motivated federal informant who's going to ask for all these things and is willing to accept the smallest inkling of support in order to get a federal charge for terrorism. This is it. This is like it's always.
And the way they get around it is because Department of Justice interpretation of entrapment is that the presumption is you were guilty the entire time. Even it takes them years, and it does take years sometimes, to get you to agree to do the smallest thing that's parenthetically connected to a bad idea, then you were always, in the eyes of the Department of Justice, predisposed to do that. And ergo,
here it is, right here.
Go to jail.
This is the reason that they get around the entrapment. If you guys don't understand how this works, this is a great example in paragraph 52 of this particular filing, which I will also post for you. On or about December 6, 2025, UC1, that's the New York police officer, instructed Garza to, quote, not ever do anything or give help or anything if it's not from the heart or you're not sure about it. I'm giving you an opportunity to back out. That is what this is. This is a required part of the entrapment protocol that I tell you, you don't have to do this. We could always just walk away.
After months or
After months
years
of grooming you to know that I will no
it.
longer be your friend if you walk away, though, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And UC added, you're not obligated. You're not obligated to do anything that you don't want, Aki. I want to make sure
this undercover
you know
talks
that.
in broken English really well.
I know, Ahi, I know I'm not obligated to do this, but jihad is the greatest of all deeds. It's a real top-notch intellect right there that's making this happen. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the explosives, because this is where it gets really fun. The UC asked Garza what materials he had acquired so far. He said, I have the stuff to make the detonator to explode, but not explosives yet. I want to cut nails to fill it with, and then when it explodes, the nails will go everywhere. Kind of like a flechette type charge or something.
Can I list off what he has to make the detonator?
Please.
Light bulbs.
Is this, wait a minute, hold on. We got the screenshot of it here. So let's blow this up on the screen for Steve's.
He's very proud. He got the first 8 on this thing that is called Experiment. He got light bulbs.
Experiment.
A battery, a matchbox, sandpaper, a piece of an aluminum from a juice can, a pen, tape, and scissors, which apparently can make a detonator for an IED.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. He hasn't gotten the glass bowl yet or the ice.
These are to acquire, needed.
Yes.
He doesn't have ice or water yet.
He's going to have to get hydrogen peroxide, sulfuric acid, and acetone, which you can find at any Walgreens to remove nail polish.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's good. So we've got that going in his favor. So he's got the detonator equipment. It's going to be a light bulb MacGyver-style detonator. I saw this in some movies, like a Chuck Norris movie, maybe.
He needs chewing gum.
It always needs a chewing gum to finish it off, right?
Yeah.
Garza intended to transfer the bomb-making equipment that he had told UC1 that he collected. And then they got another undercover stat by getting UC2 that arranged Garza and UC2 would meet at a park in Dallas. Conveniently, is it an overseas-based fake operation from the New York guy?
No.
Okay, it's domestic?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's domestic somewhere else, but out of New York, because that's how they found him. Now they get the Dallas field office. Dallas field office also gets a UC stat, or maybe this is national. And they sent
so
in
they
UC.
used the undercover 2 to be the brother he's supposed to meet, and then that guy bails.
It's always the same, by the way. It's always the same. It's, I'm going to meet you online. You're my guy. Let me introduce you to one of our brothers who just happens to live down the street from you, and he can meet you at a time that's convenient at 2 p.m.
Because ISIS has a very
9.
robust network in the panhandle of Texas, according to this guy. Who
Well,
is
it's
a
Dallas. You got to go to
room
Dallas
temperature
for it. And listen, we're going to make sure this is at a reasonable time. This was Monday, December the 22nd, and it was at 2 p.m. So work day, work hours. Nobody's getting overtime for this case. You guys watching this? This is how it goes down, brother. Oh.
They had a code word. So this guy is very OPSEC oriented. Yes. He's very worried that the feds are watching him. And yet he says to his buddy, who's the ISIS member, yeah, I'll go meet your brother. And then that secondary guy says, I can't make it, but I'll send this other guy. So now that we have an undercover number 3 stat we can claim, where they exchange the code word, which is green bird. And that's so they knew that they were both, brothers.
Work that into a conversation for me, Greenbird. How does that happen? Did you just walk up and say Greenbird?
I would imagine that's what Garza did.
Got it. Then they interviewed him, and of course, he's screwed, and he defined his friend on WhatsApp, blah, 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 and the rest is history.
Yeah, he delivered the nail polish remover and then texted the original undercover that he had dropped off the stuff, and then he was immediately arrested.
And then they did the gotcha, bitch, like kind of routine, like Dave Chappelle, and that's it. Mm-hmm. This is a mastermind criminal who was coming after all of you, and he was an ISIS supporter that Kash Patel and company has saved you from. So much weaponization has been survived because of these people.
And I think it's worth even adding, I was reading this story a couple days ago to my wife, and she tried to play a little bit devil's advocate. Hey, this guy's got some bad ideas.
For sure.
What if he was finding actual ISIS people online? I think that's the pulling on the heartstrings. The American people would say, okay, good, I want my FBI out there doing that. And I think you have to take it out of the context of terrorism to something that's a little bit more realistic and you can empathize with. And that would be, you have a friend who for months or sometimes years is your only friend and says, I'm in dire straits right now. My little child has some sort of medical condition. I can't afford anything. Can you send me some money? And you say, okay, I'll Venmo you $20. And then eventually they say, look, this surgery, it's going to cost thousands of dollars. I can't afford it. You can't afford it because you only make $16 an hour. But I have a friend. I have a friend who's an inside guy at the bank. And he can let us in. It's insured. Don't worry. Don't worry. The bank's going to be made whole. We can slip in the back. We can go into the vault, and I'll escort you in there. And you just fill up a couple of sleeves of $100 bills, and then we'll be good. Are you willing to do it? I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. I mean, it would mean a lot to my little girl, but I'll understand if it's not really on your heart. And then you go through, and they escort you into the bank vault, and you pick up the $100 bill. And then they throw a flashbang at your feet because you were always going to rob that bank.
It's even more than that, Steve. I think you could make the argument that it's taking that analogy, feel bad, my kid. You say, look, if you'd be willing to buy these illegal drugs that are not legal in the United States, but they're legal all over the rest of the world, would you go buy these pharmaceuticals from a friend of mine and give them to me so that my kid can survive? Mm-hmm. Will you take some money and buy these illicit materials? And you go, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Because I'm a retard and I got $20 and that's how much it costs for cancer drugs that nobody can afford if I go to this one guy and then the feds got you. Now they've got you on.
And they only found you because they were trolling comment sections on Instagram.
Right. And the reason they found you and the reason you didn't find an ISIS person is because the ISIS people aren't there. Because that's not an effective way to actually recruit because that's not what ISIS does. Although they're happy to have people if they were to find them. You never find these people are radicalized this way. So in any case, the FBI always grabs the lowest hanging fruit. Then they go and pat them. They break their arm, patting themselves on the back. Break their arm like Dan Bongino getting involved in a wrestling match at Quantico in his first couple days. Like that kind of break their arm.
That's fake news. Maybe
that is fake news. Sorry about that. I should do better than fake news. In any case, this is kind of this is the reason that we have these problems, I think, with these agencies is that they are freaking the same. They continue to be freaking the same. And are we going to get anything that changes on them? And I answer generally speaking, is that no, we're not. How about the Somali fraud? You mentioned earlier on that the same people there that were not paying attention to it, whether they be management or otherwise, I'm going to put it on management. I'm going to assume the case agents were willing to work the case. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, or a prosecutor.
Mm-hmm. And then the answer is like, well, you can't do that because that's not the priorities of this administration. That's what I would say goes on. You can't do that because we don't want to do that. That's not what this administration is interested in right now. So, okay, fine. Why would anyone think that anything's going to change? Why would you expect anything different? This is going to lead me to my Eric Swalwell moment, because he's actually advocating for something that I don't see anybody on the right having the balls to do, which is to say, screw the federal government. We're just going to do what we want. I actually think that's pretty funny. I mean, it's not what I want. I don't want to be in California. So I hope you guys move. And I hope if he wins, you're out of there. But I don't want that. So we're going to get into those. We're going to do some final arguments and why I think Americans in general are fed up, and why the bacon cheeseburger nationalism idea is not necessarily about the bacon and cheeseburger and all that stuff. For whatever it's worth, folks. This is just like, this is a rhetorical device for you to be able to grab onto. But I've got people posting pictures on X right now to me of their dinner because they're all eating bacon cheeseburgers. I'm going to single-handedly bring back the beef and the bacon industry in this country on accident from our audience. If you're in that audience and you're watching over on Rumble, make sure you guys have liked the video. Now's the time to do it. Bump us up in the leaderboard, kick it up in the algorithm, share the stuff with somebody else. Do the same thing over on YouTube. The YouTube people are better trained. If you guys are on Rumble, you got work to do. You're behind a smaller audience that is more aggressive on the likes with the YouTube people. Thank you for being over there. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're going to go through and blast through. I don't know what my goal is to see, but I'd love to see us double the number in this year. Subscribe there. If you're on X, join us on one of the platforms that has a chat. The chat is fantastic. They are the best. You guys are the best. And you may hear an ad from Spotify, which is the best hosting service right now. You can find the Spotify stuff at KyleSeraphinShow.com. And if you're in the replay and you're like, oh, I'm sick of the stream problems, all you got to do is real simply do one of two things. You can skip past stuff. You can turn on the audio. You can turn on the video. If there's something we're reading and you want to read along too, boom, you could do it. If you're driving in your car and you want Steve Friend or me to read it to you, then we'll do that. So there you go. All right, ready? Are we ready for some, it's not red pilling, but I think this is just like a reality check. Here's Steve Miller talking about Somali fraud. I'm going to tell you why I don't think any of this thing goes anywhere.
Based on what we have found so far, we believe that the Somali fraud operation in Minnesota is the single greatest theft of taxpayer dollars through welfare fraud in American history. We believe that we have only scratched the very top of the surface of how deep this goes. And you're familiar with all the scams with pretending that children have autism who are not in fact autistic, with pretending to enroll people in food programs when in fact nobody was ever enrolled, and engaging in massive fraud, lying, and theft and grift on a scale we've never seen before in American history. The total bill, the total tab for this is going to be far beyond the numbers we've already seen reported. We believe the state government is fully complicit in this scheme, and we believe that what we are going to uncover is going to shock the American people.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Okay, here's the funny thing. Pam Bondi, in that clip that I've now played 11 times because I think it's funny, is talking to Stephen Miller's wife on the official podcast of the White House, the official unofficial podcast of the White House, the Katie Miller Show, which is totally not a federal psyop that's being dragged out. The same place where we saw that ridiculous interview with Kash Patel and his girlfriend talking about why she's Israeli or not Israeli and why she does or doesn't have an Israeli passport stamp and all the other kind of crap that we saw there.
She's not a girl who's his friend. She's really his girlfriend. Yeah.
Steve, that's so not nice. You're not nice. That's your problem. That's if we were just going to boil it down to one thing, it's because Steve is not nice. Listen,
not nice speech is something I should be targeted for.
Correct. You know who would cancel you for it? Apparently this administration and also this lady. Oh, you didn't understand what that was either?
Durga.
I have no idea what she was saying either. Nobody knew what she was saying. How about this lady? You could probably understand this one.
Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Amanda Schillinger, and I'm a child care center director. My name is spelled Amandasch.
That's all I wanted to play. I just wanted to hear a chubby lady from Minnesota say, I'm a child care center. That's so weird. Why do they do this stuff? She was
Freudian
really
slips,
enthusiastic.
Freudian slips.
Hold on. Not only did we have John Solomon say something about Kash Patel and use the word gay man, now we have this lady claiming to be a child care center.
Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Amanda Schillinger, and I'm a child care center director. My name is spelled AmandaSchillinger. Many people in our child care community are afraid to come forward and share their story.
Steve, you're a smart guy. Maybe you're smarter than me on this one. What the hell is the child care community? The child care center community? What does that equal?
Everybody's got to have a community.
What does it mean,
a
though?
voting block, right? I mean, that woman, she's got her own gravitational field, I guess.
Man.
To the larger comment on the Somali fraud stuff, this is the new Haitians are eating dogs, right? We're going to nibble around the edges of things, and it's always going to remain. It's never going to change. We're not going to see anything for the exact same reasons, because the reason that the Haitians were eating the dogs is because we'd allowed thousands of these people into the country, and as opposed to cutting that off, we were going to complain about the dogs. You know how you could eliminate the dogs getting eaten? Stop allowing the Haitians in the country in general. Same thing here. The Somali frauds, how about you just get the government out of childcare entirely, and that way there would be no fraud at all, but it's going to
But then how
remain.
would we send all this weird money and have all these government programs? Again, this government, that government, how about the government? I got another one here. This is Lawrence Fishback, who, as you said, kind of has Vivek Ramaswamy vibes, maybe because he was on the campaign there, talking about in Florida. I don't think he's wrong about this particular claim. The question is are Republicans going to just go out there and talk about it? Because I think that's what they're going to do. Are they going to actually do anything about it? Can we expect it? And the answer is probably no.
25% of Haitian immigrants are on SNAP. 45% of Afghani immigrants are on SNAP. 52% of Senegalese immigrants are on SNAP. Yeah. We are redistributing the wealth away from productive Americans to foreigners and subsidizing their way of life. And that is unacceptable. And I'll tell you the truth, Carl. In 2024, there was a big tent coalition because of President Trump that voted away mass migration from the southern border. But in 2026, there's going to be an even bigger tent that says any type of immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, it has to stop. You cannot come into our country, impose your belief system, and force us to pay for your way of life.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Four reasons why it'll never happen. Okay. Number one, you create a voting block of people who want that sweet, sweet government cash.
Yep.
Number two, you have a donor class. And these are the people who lobby for these sorts of organizations and say, oh, I'm going to stand one up so I can get those grants. And then they kick back money to the politicians' campaigns or maybe their personal wallets. Right. Okay. And you have number three, and which is what Fishback is doing or what Jason Miller is doing. It gives them talking points to go on to cable news and say, elect us, put us into power, and then we can fix the problem. And then you look up and you're Chuck Grassley and you've been there for 98,000 years and you haven't done it, but you don't get reelected by doing anything. You get reelected by promising to do something. And then lastly, back to our ex-girlfriend, it gives the work to the government in order to confront and push back against fraud. So if we eliminated the program entirely, there'd be no fraud. But now we've had a jobs program. We're creating these childcare jobs. We're creating the TV commentator jobs. We're creating these NGO jobs. And now we're creating law enforcement jobs when if we got rid of it all, it would go away, which is why it will never go away.
True. I think that's true. Luckily, we have really serious people and brilliant political minds that are going to convince you that everything is coming. Just hang in there. This is 1990s cliffhanger television style, to be continued stuff. That's the new edge. We're coming into the year. We're starting off 2026. There's going to be a midterm election. I think it'll be catastrophic if they keep this messaging. So the people who run CPAC are the schlaps. And they're going to let you know that we got this under control and everything is great and you just don't know any better. I'm going to show you that people actually don't believe that bullshit, from professional commentators to my friend Ryan Matta, a self-proclaimed guy living in a trailer, and to people who are even on major news shows. Nobody buys this. There's a simple promise. You were going to bring down costs. You're going to shut down the border. You're going to export the people that were causing all the costs to go up. You're going to make America great by making it great for people who live in America. You know, you kind of got to do something. I love these people. I think we should have more of this. Neither of these people are boomers for whatever it's worth, but they have the same ethos. They're both in their 50s. I checked it out. 53 on the woman, 58 on the guy. These are the people that run CPAC. So this is very influential stuff, apparently.
Look, I think that the Trump administration, starting with President Trump, I think it's going to be their goal, their focus as they go into 2026 to talk to the American people and share with them the economic successes that we're having thus far under Trump. We have to remember what Trump inherited from Joe Biden was a very stagnant economy with a very high inflation rate. And so I think for the president to go out there also picking good candidates to run in these districts. Matt and I were talking about this today. These candidates are going to have to align themselves with Donald Trump and basically go into these different districts to ensure that they can win in these swing districts and in these.
So if you were like me or one of the other tens of millions of American citizens who couldn't afford to go out and celebrate New Year's Eve last night because, I don't know, your government's robbing you blind and you're paying 50 to 70% in taxes, let me just show you what a New Year's Eve event looks like at a place like Mar-a-Lago where all the billionaires, you know, our unelected bureaucrats, the ones that are hand appointed by Trump that we thought were going to go in there with a mandate and do the job that we hired them to do because they're our public servants. Well, yeah, the public servants who haven't done a gosh damn thing for us, well, they probably deserved a break, right? Like Kristi Noem dancing to Ice Ice Baby next to Stephen Miller, of course. So while your unelected officials party like rock stars with all the billionaires at Mar-a-Lago, the average peasant, you and me, maybe we just are thinking a little bit differently. Let me jump over here and talk about Trump Girl, which is the truth about the Somali fraud in Minnesota, a message to real Donald Trump. Check this out.
So I'm going to say this to the President of the United States. Hear me, President Trump. I voted for you 3 times, sir. I know that you have a bunch of very capable executives in your administration. Heads gotta roll, my man. Heads gotta roll. This is it. If we don't see indictments, if we don't see arrests, if we don't see people in handcuffs, and people in jumpsuits, people in front of the freaking judges the way all of the January 6ers were paraded for years.
Where are the substantive actions? Where are the 3 a.m. raids? Where are the videos of lines of zip-tied Somalians being loaded onto cargo aircraft headed home to Africa? Where are the raids on the HR departments of nominally U.S. businesses like Google that have for years been engaged in Indian ethno-fascist nepotistic hiring? Hiring of Indians that are so stupid they're supposed to be geniuses. They're so stupid they need to be trained by the American workers being fired.
I think that we're all missing the whole point here is American people are telling Congress, they are telling the administration and the president they cannot afford to live. They cannot afford gas. They cannot afford groceries. They can't afford their electric bills. And now they're not going to be able to afford their health care. So something has to give. And the more we talk about different systems, which I don't disagree with you, we probably should have a different system. That doesn't help people right now. And that doesn't help people at the end of every month and be able to pay for medicine or be able to feel like they can go to the doctor. So if we don't address the problem.
There's an awful lot of talk right now about a tax strike by fed up Americans in retaliation to never really seeing any accountability when it comes to the waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. And I also want to add real quick that I agree with the left-wing media in regards to them saying that this must be about race. The whole Minnesota fraud deal must be about race. It's got to be. I don't see anybody busting all of the Americans that scam the taxpayers out of billions with their fraudulent hair salons and barbershops. Do you? Now I want to say this too. I'm not here to promote, endorse, or condemn said tax strike, but one does have to ask the question, why is it always the people who follow the law and obey the rules that end up paying for everything around here?
Just saying. This is where that movement comes from, man.
That inclination to not pay taxes, I get it. And they've definitely overpromised and underdelivered. But honestly, the best thing that could happen, I think you would get the most grace and latitude beyond just saying, just trust me, bro, or 2026 is going to be awesome. You'll wait and see. Stay tuned till next week for next week's episode. If you actually got up there in all earnestness and said, you will not get the people in handcuffs. That's never going to happen. They were too smart about it. They followed the rules and the policies, the procedures in just the right way. It happened in areas where the judges are going to break their way, the juries are going to break this way. But here's what we can do. We can dismantle all of these things, these mechanisms that allowed that to happen so that it can't be turned around on you. And I think you would get people to sign on for that.
Holy crap. I feel like you're just making the argument that I've been making since I started this podcast, which is don't worry about shooting the other person, take the gun apart and make sure no one can shoot you with it.
At the very least, they'd have to rebuild that gun.
That's all I'm saying. Just slow them down. Isn't that why we bombed Iran? So that it would take them longer to go build the next program? Doesn't mean they're not going to be able to do it. Just means it's going to take them from scratch or whatever. We're going to try to set back their program. Wasn't that the nonstop claim? If we could just set them back far enough, we're going to keep doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't pay attention to what goes on in Iran. America only.
I think we should pay attention to what goes on there. I think this is the right clip on there. They've been so close to getting us for so long. That's why we have to be so close to the Israeli guy who wants to monitor social media. And we also, at any moment, Iran might get us.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
If not stopped, Iran could...
That was 30 years of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Back to the time when the FBI was great, according to John Solomon. I mean, maybe Iran only has like acetone and a light bulb.
That's all they had, man. And $20. That $20 went a little bit further back then.
That's true. That's true. We hadn't had Bidenflation.
All right, you made a claim. All the same people are in and they played by the rules. And if they came out and just said, yep, they did it, they got away with it, that's what's happening. Oh, by the way, Julie Kelly said that about the Epstein files. Go figure. That actually was sort of the argument that I took away from this little clip. This is from the hearing, closed door, Jack Smith and his attorney. This is defending Jack Smith. And the statement is essentially that they got it right. They did a thing that they were allowed to do. Whether you liked it or not, they got away with it. And I think everybody sort of knows that.
We've heard a word a lot from this administration, from the majority Republicans, and that word is transparency. And yet, Mr. Smith, we're in a closed-door deposition today, meaning that members of the public and even congressional members and staff who are not part of the Judiciary Committee are not permitted to attend this proceeding. Did you offer to testify publicly before this committee?
Yes.
How did you offer? I guess, how did you make the offer to testify publicly to this committee?
I think it was through my counsel.
Did you send a letter to the committee? Did your counsel send a letter to the committee offering to publicly testify?
I think that's right.
We'll enter that letter into the record just for your background. And this will be Exhibit 7. It'll be an October 23rd, 2025 letter signed by Mr. Lanny Brewer and Mr. Peter Koski. It's addressed to Chairman Jordan and Chairman Grassley regarding Mr. Smith's public offer to testify publicly.
It's a public offer to publicly testify publicly. Two things I want you to give me your reflection on. Number one, if you're willing to testify publicly, do you think there's any fear involved in exposing whatever it is you may be able to say? That's part one. Part two, body language analysis. Did that look like a man who was concerned that he was going to be going to prison for his life?
No to both.
Come on, Steve, give me some analysis.
Well, 2026 is going to be outstanding. It's going to be amazing. We're going to see him in bracelets in an orange jumpsuit being frog marched across your screen. Just tune in next week to Newsmax 2, the ESPN Ocho equivalent of cable news.
This is how you know that Steve listens to our program as well, which makes me really happy when you drop a previous reference. Also, I think that you have you've got a hidden capability that you may not have known. You could do some Randy Savage. I've always been I've never been great at the Randy Savage. That was a pretty good accidental sort of slipped in Randy Savage moment.
Well, I did go to WWE Raw earlier this week with my 8-year-old, so maybe a little bit carried forward. That was an experience. I don't even know if we have time for that on a Friendly Friday.
We'll have to do it another time. Let's just put it this way. You and I are both trying to raise heritage children in America. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, you're trying to be more like Little House on the Prairie, and I went for the next best thing.
That's true. I just want to make my own cabin. Here's how I know nothing's going to happen, folks. It's the title of this episode. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I actually think it's uplifting, which is why I'm pro Eric Swalwell as of this morning. I didn't know I was until then. We're going to do some more hearings, okay? So just stick around. It's all going to be exposed. Kash Patel's going to give over some documents, and then these guys are going to do some talking about it.
Chairman Comer just announced this morning, we've been working very closely to get those state reps who have been giving us a lot of information to come and testify and continue to lay out this case, but then to bring in ultimately Tim Walz himself and Keith Ellison. They've got tough questions to answer. There obviously are serious criminal probes already going on by the Trump administration, who I applaud. And think about this, Julie. This was going on during the Biden years, and they just, for the most part, were asleep at the wheel. It seems.
Now Steve Scalise.
And hey, look, James Comer, he really holds people to account. He already subpoenaed the Clintons and Comey and Holder to come in and talk to his committee, which I guess we didn't have happen. I guess they weren't very transparent about that. And I won't hold my breath about getting anything on any hearing because it's just all cannon fodder to get on cable news and then collect information so that James Comey can either use AI or have somebody ghostwrite a book, which the American people, after paying their taxes, can buy to get access to the information that their taxes were supposed to have bought already.
Yikes, man. That is not a positive message. Here's what I think the answer is. And incidentally, my favorite leftist has decided to arrive at. I think Eric Swalwell gets a bad rap, by the way. The Fang thing, people don't realize that was before he was in National. And he actually, it's funny to dunk on the guy for that, but at least
he can
Fang
bench 135. I can't say the same about many people in the current administration, right?
Bro. Yeah, he can bench, and he didn't seem like he was struggling. He was talking. So my guess is he probably benches 225, but he probably doesn't do as many reps. Eric Swalwell is not a complete wimp like everyone acts like he is. And this statement that you want to go up and say, hey, we're a big state, California. I would like to be the governor of the state, and I would like to tell the federal government to piss off, and I'm going to do it in my own way. I don't know if he's going to carry it out. A lot of these things are BS, but I'm pro whatever the sentiment is that drives that, because if Texas and Florida and Wyoming and Montana and Idaho decided to do the same thing where they were like, yeah, we think the federal government's crap. We're not sending you any more tax dollars. It's the same attitude. This is actually the argument. So Eric Swalwell for California president, the president of the nation of California, which is one of the biggest nations in the world. He said that in an interview the other day. He said it was one of the biggest nations. Eric Swalwell for president of California, 2028.
What would you bring to the table as a governor of California? You have immense powers as governor of California, and your responsibility is to protect the most vulnerable in the state. So if the president is going to send ICE agents to chase immigrants to the fields where they work, what I'm going to do is make sure that they take off their masks and show their faces, that they show their identification, and if they commit crimes, that they're going to be charged with crimes. If it's falsely imprisoning people, if it's kidnapping, if assault, battery, they're going to be held accountable. I also think if the governor has the ability to issue driver's licenses to people in California, if you're going to wear a mask and not identify yourself, you're not going to be eligible to drive a vehicle in California. There's a lot you can do, but most importantly, you have to go on offense. Otherwise, the most vulnerable in our community will always be on defense.
What do you think?
I mean, I guess he doesn't read the supremacy clause just from
I don't agree with that any of this stuff is legal, but I also don't think that what they're doing in the federal government is legal either. I don't think they're supposed to be doing that stuff. So
look, that is in the camp of one thing that I've been arguing, that I believe that the federal government should just acknowledge ceded territory to California, Illinois, New York, all these bastions of communism. Let them drown in it. You can have all the illegal aliens. You need them to pick your crops.
See, this is why we're friends. I got you. Let me tell you what that looks like. Do you know what that looks like? They're already going to do it in some places.
All our Republican.
I'm over here like looking off screen because I've got to go and grab my last clip, which I had, and I didn't know if we were going to get it done. But we are going to get it done because you made it happen. You want them to drown in it? Let them eat. What do we call that? What should we call that? Let them eat something.
Well, in the case of California, it'd be like, let them eat avocados.
Let them. What do they eat in New York?
Not much, apparently, because Mamdani is the mayor. They're running out of food.
The cost of childcare will no longer discourage young adults from starting a family, because we will deliver universal childcare for the many by taxing the wealthiest few.
The hell of a message.
Those in rent-stabilized homes will no longer dread the latest rent hike, because we will freeze the rent. Getting on a bus without worrying about a fare hike or whether you'll be able to get to your destination on time will no longer be deemed a small miracle, because we will make those buses fast and free. The cost of childcare will no longer discourage young adults from starting a family.
All right, let me just say this. He literally did the argument, you won't have anything, we're going to eat the rich, everything will look like crap because nobody's going to have any money to maintain their buildings, but the trains will run on time. I shit you not, he just made that argument.
He's a discount Barack Obama. Barack Obama at least promised the seas would cease rising. He said, I'll maybe get you to work on time because the buses will run.
Yeah! Do your job. Workers unite and go to work. By the way, all of you are going to work because we're going to watch your kids and raise them. The state will now pay for it. And guess who's going to be taxed? The rich are going to do it. The rich can't leave here, except when they leave here because they're not going to be hanging around for that. Yeah. This is amazing stuff. I think this is a great message, by the way. I'm for it.
Ceded territory.
Let's have everybody, Steve, let's have everybody do their version of America that they want to do. Keep your shitty ideas where they are. But that's what I think we're at right now. Let's push the acceleration button on the people that want to go that route. See how it works out for you. We're supposed to have 50 independent laboratories for freedom. So if your idea is tax the rich, the buses run on time, and everything is free, and someone's going to have to pay for it, and we'll just take it from the people we need. Let's see how that goes. Let's also do the thing in Florida where it's like there's no more property taxes, and see if people can actually own their own home outright if they choose to own their own home and be insulated against, the government coming in and taking it. Let's just see what works. Let's see how people vote with their feet and with their dollars and with their time and with their interest. Can we do that? Can we let Eric Swalwell go and take the masks off ICE agents and protect vulnerable people that are illegally in the country in the field? Like, I just want all that. I want all of this in 2026.
We could absolutely, if we reduce the size and impact and influence of the federal government back to where it was supposed to be, which is a finite number of things that we expect from our government. We have a social compact with it. We say, like, protect the border, sign some treaties, coin some money, fraud, enforce every now and then, but mostly just leave us alone and we can do our experimenting in each one of our 51 laboratories.
We could also just let the January 6th thing go. We could just move on from that. That seems to be what we got going on. That's what Harmeet Dillon told us we should do. Just shut up. Stop talking about Epstein. Stop talking about J6. Stop talking about the failings. People are not having it, it turns out.
Stop being so negative. That sounds like hate speech.
Let me give you some hate speech.
Don't get it confused. Don't get it twisted. J6 statute of limitations runs out in 5 days. Pam Bondi doesn't have one person in jail, not one person arrested, none of them even investigated, right? It's over. 5 more days. Then what's going to happen? You think this Nick Shirley video about the Somalians fraud is blowing up? Wait until you see the people asking for Pam Bondi's resignation. And honestly, maybe that's why she's there. Maybe she was put there to do nothing. Now they're going to throw her out. And we're going to say, well, at least we replaced her, right? But in fact, what did we get done? Nothing, right? 5 more days, Pam Bondi. We're all out here watching. Let's see what you're going to do.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. This is a prognostication, and I'm going to use a very strong source, which we led the show off with. And then we're going to wrap this thing up, Steve. The source told me and John Solomon that what we did is what you can expect to see more of. So you guys let me know how that feels. He doesn't say the word gay man here. He's saying something else.
Last question. All the things that you've seen, all the weaponization you've uncovered since you gay man and found these secret files or restricted files, all those things. Beyond those who are already charged, do you think you've seen other crimes that might eventually get referred to justice?
Yes, we are looking at so many different leads on criminal activity by those who are in positions of power. And we're not going to stop until every single one of those is fully exposed. The documents are provided either to Congress or the courts of law and make every referral we can to the Department of Justice. These indictments that you've seen and the ones that you're going to see coming up here in this near future are just the beginning. But I have to remind the audience one thing. Everybody's like, it's 7 months. What have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
Well, they spent 20...
It took a long time to build up the temple of corruption, Steve. So you need to give them some time. 6 to 8 months was going to be acceptable. 6 to 8 months, 628 months. It's going to take years. The thing that I like is that we're all going to expose the documents, and so that we're going to get hearings. Are you good with some sternly awarded letters coming in 2026?
That would be keeping consistent with what we saw in 2025. So, I mean, I guess it'd be promises made, promises kept. Wait 6 to 8 months, just enough time for me to be there and say, be patient. And then when the 8 months is up, hey, I got to eject and go back to my podcast where I'll be paid for my opinion again, right?
Look, they're just paid for facts. The facts are nobody did anything wrong. They're all pretty comfortable with where they came from, and that's why you're not going to see anything happen.
We'll probably get lots of 21-year-old retards entrapped, though.
We're definitely going to stop all the Mexican ISIS supporters in the Texas Panhandle, and probably even the ones that are hanging out in Utah or Wyoming. We got you guys. America is safe. Also, if you have a chemical picnic out in the desert, in the Mojave Desert in California, we will also stop a New Year's Eve plot that is not going to actually happen by the, no joke, what are they called? The TILF? The Turtle
Island Liberation Front?
The Turtle Island Liberation Front? Black Lotus faction. Yeah, that sector.
If there's any faction out in Montana now, is not even safe because we've cut the ribbon on that brand new field office.
Good to go. Yep. If you are a Bad Idea Theater out in Montana, a JTTF is coming to a very, very small town and previously nice open air kind of big sky country near you. So that's cool to go. Steve, you've got something coming up. You're going to be launching out. You're going to be making an appearance on Monday. You want to just let people know what they can find you and what you got going on?
Sure. Hey, look, we're going to be relaunching the American Radicals podcast at Real Steve Friend, hands and all. We'll be in the seat. Going to try something new. Going to be a noontime all weekdays, Monday through Friday, more of a bite size on your lunch break sort of show, aiming for like 30 to 40 minutes, so that you can digest a few key things we like to pull that might have eluded your attention, and that's going to be available on rumble.com/amradpod and on YouTube, the American Radicals podcast, soon to be at amradpod, and on X at amradpod. Noontime Eastern. Be with us for the relaunch. We got the new studio. We got a new attitude. It's going to be an exciting 2026.
Same Steve Friend, but this time with more hands. Hold on. Let me get you back on the screen for the hands. There's the hands. Show them. Boom. Demonstrated. Grown like a, what did you say? A starfish?
Like a starfish.
Do starfish. This sounds like a thing that you would learn because you have young kids. You'd be like, did you know that starfish can like lose a limb and then they grow it back? And you're like, is that real? I feel like I heard that.
I learned that and all the various like 619 and Devil's Kiss and superplexes all on Monday Night Raw. You all can hear about that on the AmRad pod because it was fun times.
That's it. All right, buddy. I've got a palate cleanse, which we all require after this as we start off this year, or we end this first day of the first year. And this is what all of your news feeds looks like. And I feel like we all can sort of resonate with this. So let's just enjoy this as we head out the door.
Turns out there is a giant planet hurtling towards us. It's either going to kill us all or miss completely. NASA just detected a loud screaming noise coming from the void in space. They believe it's either from millions of years ago or from right now, and it's getting closer. The sun might have already exploded. You know that giant asteroid we said was hurtling towards Earth? Yeah, well, we lost it. We can't see it anymore. All those fucking telescopes, we can't find where it went. And that is all the research scientists are doing on that. Yep, they're just stopping there, no further questions. Something just flew past the Pentagon at a scientifically unexplainable speed. But just pay attention to the Met Gala instead. We actually forgot Katy Perry back in space. Yep, we just left her there. Everything we know about physics might be wrong. Time is actually going backwards, and everything that has happened is yet to happen. But just remember, you still need to go into work tomorrow. Mysterious signals were just picked up by space satellites, and when translated into Morse code, they say run. I don't know, it's probably nothing. A hole 23 times the size of Earth just opened up on the surface of the sun. So, you know, just avoid the edge of that.
The feed will be nothing but fear and weirdness. We're going to try to make sense of the madness and the silliness that's out there. And, try to have a spot that sits and accurately says, hey, you're lying. Hey, you're lying. We don't want any more lies. Can you just tell us the truth and just not screw with us? We can handle it. We really can. And maybe we'll just devolve it back to our own backyards and our own barbecues and some bacon cheeseburger nationalism. If you didn't know what that was just a guy saying things that he's read on the news that all seem accurate. That seems like the way that the feed is. It's nonstop fear and all kind of BS. All right. I want to thank Steve Friend for joining me for today. I want to thank you for joining us for today. So much covered. And also, he always makes my spirits go up. So if you guys enjoy Friendly Friday, make sure you guys tune in at least on the Fridays. Rumble, give us a thumbs up. YouTube, you know what to do. Subscribe on any of those channels. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple, if you're listening on iHeartRadio, we appreciate you as well. Make sure you guys leave us a 5-star review. Give us a fun comment in the thing. The best place for me to see those comments, it turns out, is over on Spotify. You can find it at KyleSeraphinShow.com. You don't even need to download anything at all. And it's still free, right? You're just going to be able to move past. You may hear a Spotify ad here before we go into the last thing, which is going to be the outro, and I will play you that full version of the song, Bacon Cheeseburger Nationalism, because I really liked it. I thought it was good, and I want to share it with you guys. So, God bless you, and we'll see you on the other side of this weekend.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.
Swear, not sympathy. Long nights carved as legacy. No shortcuts, no guarantee. You earn your spot, you earn your seat. Don't curse the ground, you choose to stand. This place was raised by callous hands. If you hate the noise, the grit, the sound, there's a bigger world outside this town. No excuses, no revision. Say it straight, this is the mission. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Built on work and conviction. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Say it loud, say it with conviction. If you can't eat this, you don't belong. This table's set for the strong. Stand your ground, hold your position. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. No silver spoons, no easy ride. Just dirt on boots and stubborn pride. We don't fold when pressure's high. We stand our ground and testify. You don't have to cheer or clap. Just don't tear down what we built from scratch. Respect the code, respect the land. That's the deal, now shake my hand. No fake smiles, no disguise. Say it straight, look me in the eye. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Hard-earned pride, no permission. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Built on sweat, not superstition. If you can't eat this, you don't belong. This fire burns all night long. Say it proud, say it loud. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Work, earn, stand your ground. No free ride. No backing down. Bacon, cheeseburger, nationalism. Simple truth, no translation. Built by hands that never quit, not by words or imitation. If you can't eat this, you don't belong. That's the line, that's the song.